Hello, my name is Jingo Nelly, and today we are going to be looking at another tutorial. But before I begin off, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It will bring you some good luck in your forthcoming exams.
I've given you this as a guiding question. And this is a question that your colleagues uttered with, which is, I think it was last academic year, yeah. Your colleagues, the semester 2, so your colleagues who did the business ethics exam during that semester, I think it was last year. Yeah, last year, in a semester like this one. And it was talking about technology, how to concerns. So that was the question. And particularly part B talks about what we are going to start with. As businesses expand internationally, they must take into account the ethical issues in international business. The fact is, the foreign environment has serious moral and ethical challenges that affect business success. So the question was, identify and explain the main ethical issues in international business. So by the end of this lecture, we should be in position to answer such questions and any other related questions. All right. I hope we have finished writing it in case you are interested in writing it. Please, I request that whoever joins, please mute your microphone so that we don't get interruptions. So please, whenever you join, whenever you log on, please always remember to mute your microphone so that you can have a smooth interaction and discussion. All right. So I want to start by looking at business in its international environment. Last time I explained what environment is, and we said that, we discussed a number of issues as I was introducing. So we want to look at business in its international environment. And I want to say that the growth of international businesses, the growth and expansion of businesses created the need to search for new markets. When the giant companies expanded, their business operations had to grow and they needed to get more markets. This means that they had due to the need to get more markets, they had to expand beyond their national frontiers. They had to look for markets elsewhere. Okay. I was waiting for that person to mute a microphone. So we're saying that multinational corporations come as a result of growth and expansion of the giant businesses. Due to the need to get market, they had to expand and search for new markets beyond their national frontiers or boundaries in order to get the competitive advantages. When you talk about the competitive advantages, I think this is a term which you came across in economics. Basically, it talks about all those benefits that accrue to an organization as a result of doing business. So such corporations, the giant firms, the giant organizations had to expand and look for markets beyond the national boundaries. So we are saying that now this one, when this one arises, it gives rise to what we call the host countries and the home countries. What do we mean by the host countries and the home countries? The home country is that country where the firm or the organization is having its headquarters. In other words, where it originates from. I'm saying, I think you can see the interruptions I talked about. Whenever someone leaves the microphone unmuted, we shall always get interruptions and it is consuming our time. So please, I don't know if the class rep has already joined. Please try to help me and control the class by telling all those people to mute their microphones. So I was saying that the home countries are the countries where the multinational corporation is having its headquarters. In other words, where it originates from. And the host country is that country where the multinational corporation or firm expands or takes its operations. So if a particular firm starts from Uganda and expands and grows and expands, then you need to search for markets. If it continues the operations in another country, that country is hosting its the firm's operations. So that's why we're calling it the host country. But the home country is where the firm or the business is originating from. Now, having said this, I want to say that businesses, when we talk about the multinational corporations, these ones expand and they this gives birth to what we call the frameworks. Basically, there are 3 frameworks which we want to understand today. Remember, we are looking at business ethics in the international environment. How ethics surfaces in an attempt to operate beyond the national frontiers. If a business opens up branches, or what they call, some people call subsidiaries, in another country, even across the boundaries of the home country, what happens? So we are saying that there are a number of issues that may arise. And we are saying that the behaviors of the business firms in the global context lead to basically 3 frameworks, which will include the Absolutism, as I'm going to explain, Relativism, and the Cosmopolitan Framework. What do we mean by the Absolutism framework? Now, Absolutism argues that the home country culture and ethical values must be applied everywhere, just as they are at home.
Pardon?
Here we are saying that the home country culture and ethical values must be applied everywhere. Absolutism talks about how a multinational corporation applies its home country values, culture, and ethical values, even when it's operating in another country, which we called the host country. Now, when we look at the Absolutism framework, it's about identifying the common moral ground In other words, what works there in the original, in the mother country, that should be the one to work even in another country. But as we are going to see, as we are going to proceed with our discussion, you'll find that different countries have different cultural values and definitely ethical values, which must be respected. That's why now when we discuss international business, multinational corporations, we are looking at how ethical issues set in. So by saying that what applies in your home country should be applied even in the host country or in another country, and you disregard the values, the cultural values, and the ethical values that apply in that country, then this means that this particular issue or this one alone raises some ethical issues, as we are going to discuss. Then relativism. This is a framework that refers to the behaviors which apply or which are applicable to the saying that when you are in Rome, do or behave as the Romans. I think you have heard of this, that when you are in Rome, behave like Romans. Or when you are in Rome, do as the Romans do, or behave as the Romans behave. In other words, when you go somewhere in another country or in another society, you must adopt and apply or consider the values, the principles, the norms that are applicable in that particular country or society. So this one, as opposed to absolutism, where we say that what applies in the home country should also apply in the host country. For this one, relativism, it says that when you go somewhere in a certain place, you must adopt the values. You forget what you believe in or the values in your home country, and you instead adopt or follow the values in that host country. And that is relativism. That's why I've said that this relates to the saying that when you are in Rome, behave like Romans. In Uganda, we have a saying that so behave like those people you have found in that community. So the same applies here, that when a multinational corporation operates in another country, it should adopt or follow the cultural values, religious values of that particular community and in that particular country. That is relativism. Can we proceed?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, please proceed.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Then, when we come to the cosmopolitan framework, this one means being sensitive to the cross-cultural differences regarding ethical issues. Cosmopolitan is about being sensitive to the cross-cultural differences regarding ethical issues. In other words, we are saying that a multinational corporation or an international business should be sensitive and, where necessary, adopt. There is some kind of flexibility here. The sensitivity we are talking about, sensitivity to cross-cultural differences. Remember, as I said, that different countries have different values. For example, in Uganda, even our constitution may be allowing some practices, but in another country, such practices may not be allowed. That's why we are talking about differences in terms of countries' values. In other countries, prostitution is lawful, is a lawful practice, is a legal practice. Homosexuality in some countries is a lawful practice. But here in Uganda, a country which has a motto which says, for God and my country, for us we are saying, no, this particular practice is against our values. And therefore, it's even enshrined in the Constitution that such practices are unacceptable, they are unlawful. So that's why I'm saying that different countries have different cultural values. Now, the Cosmopolitan Framework argues that a multinational corporation must be sensitive to those cultural differences and consider flexibility and apply the local values or principles and follow the cultural values of the host country, and where necessary should apply the cultural values or principles of the home country. So here there is some kind of flexibility. There is a mixture of the two, but the flexibility here applies depending on what is suitable in a particular environment. So the Cosmopolitan Framework basically talks about the mixture and the flexibility in applying the values. You may adopt the local values and the principles, or you may adopt the home country values. So this means that this will help to identify the common moral ground. Where necessary, you apply the home country values, and where necessary, you apply the host country values. That's why I started by explaining what a home country is and what a host country is. All right, I think we can proceed.
Sir, I beg your pardon on the first one. I had network issues.
Absolutism. The word is absolutism. We have said that absolutism talks about or argues that the home country culture and ethical values must be applied everywhere as they are in the home country. That when you expand your business operations and you go beyond your national frontiers or boundaries, and you go to another country, that you should apply or you follow the cultural values and the ethical values of your home country. In other words, where the business organization originates from. That country where it has its headquarters, where it originates from. That's why we say that different countries have different culture and ethical values. So absolutism is about following or applying the home country values, ethical and cultural values, even when you are operating in another country. While relativism talks about it talks about applying or following what you find, the principles, the culture, and ethical values you find in the home country where you're operating, that you should respect them and you should instead follow only those. And you should not apply what is working in your home country. And the Cosmopolitan is about identifying the common moral ground. Well, there are some basic principles that must be followed in the process of considering or operating in an international environment. Now, these basic principles have been formulated by different institutions institutions, global institutions, and basically they put emphasis on what such multinational corporations or international businesses or businesses that are are operating in different countries, what they need to follow in order to respect the values of the people in those countries. And basically there are three: respect for basic rights. I think according to, you must have covered the Rights and Justice Theory by John Rawls and John Locke, which talks about respect of the rights of the individuals. That when whatever you do, you must respect the rights of the other person. So even in businesses, while operating, when such businesses employ the citizens, that they are called upon to respect their basic rights, because rights are fundamental natural entitlements which must be respected in all aspects. Then another is good citizenship. When we're discussing corporate social responsibility, we said that when an organization operates in a manner while complying with the law, a law-abiding corporation is considered as a law-abiding citizen, because the corporation can be considered as an artificial person. Then respect for human dignity. Human dignity is very important. And according to Kantian theory, Maxim 2, which you discussed with Mr. Chigundo, Kantian theory, Maxim 2, talks about respect for human dignity. That in whatever you do, remember, Kantian theory talks about the imperative framework, which contains the set of moral rules, maxims, or call them principles, that should be followed and applied in any given situation. Because Kantian talks about the individual inherent moral obligation and duty to ensure the well-being of another person. Therefore, Maxim 2 talks about respect for human dignity, that in whatever you do, you must ensure that you respect the dignity of a human being or another person. By following this, your behavior, your action, your decision will be qualified. So basically, these are the basic principles that need to be followed when businesses are operating in international environments. Now, there are a number of
number 2.
Good citizenship. We say that good citizenship is about operating in compliance with the laws within a particular country. As we said that businesses, the government enacts or formulates laws, which laws are meant to benefit the society, which laws are meant to regulate the behaviors of businesses. So we are saying that good citizenship talks about how multinational corporations should operate while complying with the laws of the country. That's why we said that a law-abiding corporation is considered as a corporate citizen, because an organization is considered as an artificial person.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, human dignity, especially, I don't know whether they're called components or the elements that make up human dignity. Because you, whatever we do, we have to respect human dignity. But what's human dignity? Thank you.
What is human dignity? Okay, can someone try to answer that? Can I open up? Members, any person please raise up you and tell us, how do you understand human dignity? What does it mean?
Complying with human rights.
Complying with the human rights.
So can it be complying with the human interests?
Human interests. Yes, so fine.
Yeah, respect for all other people or welfare.
Me, I think recognition of the different values and principles.
Recognition of what?
Different values and principles people consider very basic in their lives.
Yes, good, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's self-respect.
Self-respect, giving people respect. Yes, I want to believe that actually, thank you very much. All those ideas are right. When you talk about personal dignity, that do you have personal dignity? Do you, according to virtuous theory of ethics, we talk about virtues, generosity, honesty, integrity. In how you behave, do you give yourself that self-respect? Do you feel that you have dignity, and do you feel that you have dignity to that you must always defend in whatever you do, in whatever you say? A person without self-dignity will always not be mindful of what he or she says and how he or she behaves. That's why sometimes some people who dress indecently, we may say that such people don't have personal dignity, respect for personal dignity. So in other words, in relation to what we are discussing, human dignity, respect for human dignity, we are saying that the corporations, rather multinational corporations, when they employ the local people or the natives of that particular country, they must understand that these are human beings who must be treated well as human beings and respect their personal dignity. Now, personal dignity, personal human dignity will comprise of issues to do with resisting or avoiding to violate their rights. That's why someone talked about rights. What are your rights? Privacy is a right. When you employ someone, do you consider the fact that this is a human being who at a particular time gets tired? You are not employing a machine. If this person gets tired, he or she may need to have a break, to have a refreshment, maybe to refresh himself or herself. And that is respect for personal dignity. If even machines, after being used up to a certain time, they also need to, you also need to give them a break in order to operate well. What about a human being? That's why these basic principles were put in place, and business multinational corporations are called upon to respect these principles because they are the ones that promote their operations and good harmonious relationship with the employees. So we are saying that when you go to work for people, or if multinational corporations are operating in another country, they must respect the employees, much as they may think that they are getting cheap labor, but these are human beings with the rights, with the dignity, which must be respected. And when you employ them, you must consider the fact that these are human beings who need breaks, who need rest, who need to associate. So you cannot say that you are not allowed to communicate, to talk to your colleagues. You are not. So human beings were created in such a way that they are social. Actually, they call them social animals who need to associate. That's why sometimes even in organizations, grapevine is acceptable. And we said in business communication, which you studied in year 1, you said that grapevine has advantages because there is a way people feel relinquished when they share ideas, views, when they converse with their colleagues, when they are at the workplace. So this is something that needs to be respected because a person is not a machine. So he needs such respect even when you employ him or her. So regardless of gender, regardless of the status, regardless of the race, as long as you employ a human being, you must respect their personal dignity. Then there are a number of ethical behaviors, or what we may call ethical issues in the international business. And what do we mean by ethical issues? Normally, we set questions and we tell students, we may set a case, assuming that we have set a case, and we tell students, identify the ethical issues in that case as maybe part A. And it may have, if the case has 40 marks, this one alone may have maybe 20 marks, or 15, or 10. Identify and discuss the ethical issues in the case. So what are ethical issues? Let's first of all understand this. This comes from two words: something ethical, and then what is an issue. I think you also find this in business law, where you are told to raise what are the issues in this particular case. But now in the business ethics, we are concerned with ethical issues. So something ethical, the term ethical may mean compliance with the norms, standards, or acceptable behaviors. That's why where you started from when we were introducing with Mr. Chubo, you talked about ethics. By defining ethics, how do we say, when do we say that something is ethical, someone is ethical or unethical? This means, that's why I've always reiterated that
Grace mute.
ethics focuses on 3 things: our actions, our behaviors, and the decisions. So because the society sets the moral standards, we can use that as the benchmark for evaluating our actions. So the society's moral standards are the benchmarks which we use to evaluate people's behaviors, actions, and decisions to determine if such a person is ethical or unethical. But what do we mean when we say that someone is ethical or unethical? So someone who is ethical should behave, should act, should make decisions which are in compliance with the norms, standards, or acceptable behaviors. So when you do something, or if your behaviors are contrary to the known acceptable norms, standards, or behaviors, then we shall, so this basis, that's when we say that you are unethical. Then when we come to the second aspect, an issue. An issue is a contentious matter that concerns individuals. An issue is a contentious matter that concerns individuals. Therefore, when we talk about ethical issue, now by merging the two words, we are saying that ethical issues are any behaviors, actions, and decisions that contradict or that violate the norms, the laws, and the moral standards of the organization or the society.
Pardon, sir.
Ethical issues concern those behaviors, actions, or decisions that violate or contradict the laws, the existing laws, norms, or moral standards of the organization or the society.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, whenever we tell you to discuss, identify,
Pardon,
and
sir.
discuss, whenever we tell you to identify and discuss ethical issues, assuming that we have set a case, please, that's what we mean. Anything that you see, that you identify, that violates or contradicts the existing norms, moral standards, or the laws. So, assuming that it's an organization, we may give a case and you are only required to identify what you feel that it is against, what you feel is violating or contradicting with the acceptable norms, values, or standards. That's why I said that the society sets the moral standards. That's why in our definition of ethical issue, we've said something that violates the norms, values, or contradicts the norms, moral standards of the organization or the society. Because the society sets the moral standards, which are used as the benchmarks for evaluating our actions, behaviors, and decisions. So it's on this basis that we can say, we can conclude that such a behavior is unethical. Or a behavior, a particular behavior, action, or decision is ethical because it's in compliance with the existing laws, norms, and standards. But if it violates the laws, norms, or moral standards, then it's on this basis that we call it unethical. So ethical issues, or the term ethical issue, comes from that. I want to believe that I've explained it in detail.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So the term ethical issues can also mean unethical, right? Is it?
Yes, because according to what we have explained, yes. I've said that something ethical is something that refers to or in compliance with the norms, the standards, or acceptable behavior. That is ethical alone. Now, an issue is something which is contentious. When we talk about contention, something contentious, something, a matter that concerns an individual. So when we tell you that, when someone says that these are contentious issues, what does it mean? What comes to your mind? How do you understand this? Let someone tell us. What does it mean to say that this is a contentious issue or something is contentious? Yes.
I think it's something you can't associate with.
May I think
Something you
that
cannot associate with. That concerns what?
that concerns you or is irritating.
There's something I've not heard. Something that concerns you or
irritating you, and you cannot just let it go.
Yes, something that irritates, something that concerns, something that raises one's concern. Why should someone be concerned? So something that is irritating, something that is raises concern, is something contentious. So this basically relates to what we're discussing, that something or an issue is a contentious matter that concerns an individual. So when a behavior, someone may behave in a certain way that is irritating, and the irritation comes because someone feels that this particular behavior is contradicting or is violating what we believe to be acceptable. That's why I've said the moral standards, the norms. That's why I've said the society sets the moral standards. That when we may expect someone to behave in a certain way, when a person behaves contrary to our expectation, then we are saying that such a behavior, or this particular person is unethical. So basically, that's what we mean by that. So you are right with the person who asked, you are right to say that when we talk about unethical issue may also mean something which is unethical. In other words, something that violates the existing norms, standards, or moral standards, or the laws.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So ethical issues in international business include relate ethical issues in international trade, rather business, relate to issues of employment practices, human rights, environmental regulations, and corruption, as we are going to discuss further. All right. So, in the question I gave you, I told you to, I think it was second part B. Yes. Part B, as a business or as businesses expand internationally, they must, as businesses
expand internationally.
Let me see. All right. As businesses expand internationally, they must
take into account the ethical.
They must take into account the ethical issues.
Yeah.
In other
words, foreign environment.
They should be concerned with the ethical issues. They should be concerned with the ethical issues in international business. The fact is, the foreign environment has serious moral and ethical challenges that affect business success. Identify
the main ethical issue, international business.
Guys, mute, we are getting the echo back.
Identify and explain the main ethical issues in the international business. That's why I've taken time to explain each of these things. I've tried to unpack what basically this particular question wanted. All right. Now, let's go back to our discussion. Okay, so ethical issues in international environment include the following. 1, alteration of the local tests. So when you are responding to that question I've just shown you, you are expected to discuss what ethical issues are and then identify those issues that are common in businesses that may affect or that may violate those basic principles which we have just looked at. That's why I say I can manage. Okay, are you in position to see what I'm displaying? I think you have finished writing this. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Issues to do with the alteration of the local tests that multinational corporations, because they come with different tests, so they alterate the local tests and preferences. Issues to do with the discrimination. Discrimination in form of racial segregation and what have you. Some multinational corporations may not be willing to employ some people because of their race. This is discrimination because of gender. Because of physical appearance, some organizations do not want to employ albinos. This is a form of discrimination which is unethical. Conflict of interests, supporting non-democratic regimes. This is something to do with the interference of the local politics. Of exploitation of resources, we said that the organizations should know when we're discussing corporate sustainability, we say that organizations should not deplete. You had already written this, now I'm just going through. Organizations should not deplete resources because they need continuity of their businesses. So organizations that are mindful of sustainability, they should ensure that they protect the environment and the resources without using them, without depleting them. Interference with the politics of the host country, this is also an ethical issue, and slowing the development of the domestic farms, because in most cases, these multinational corporations suffocate the local companies, local farms, because they have enough capital, and yet the local farms have limited capital, so they cannot compete favorably with the multinational or the giant companies. Unemployment due to mechanical intensive techniques, because they tend to use high technology, then they end up, of course, out-competing these local firms, which may not be in a position to adopt the modern technology. Gender and cultural abuse, and that's why we said that different countries have different cultural values and different norms and values. So all issues to do with violation of cultural values is considered as ethical issue. We continue talking about change of the local tastes and preferences, because they come with different products. Then they may change the local tastes, because the different people have different local tastes. Somehow it may be an advantage because they have a number of alternatives or options. They have to make a choice, but we are saying that this also results into change of the local tastes and preferences. Then exploitation of the local labor. Yes, some multinational corporations, when they come to operate in these countries, they feel that they should pay meager salaries. They feel that because there is a high rate of unemployment in the developing countries, so they tend to exploit. They tend to exploit the local people by paying them poor or unfair remunerations. So this is also an ethical issue. Refusal of the multinational corporations to follow the local policies and laws. We said that different countries have different policies, different principles, different values. So it is expected that multinational corporations should operate while respecting the local values and complying with the laws in the host countries. Violation. Someone has said, can someone
Jackie, mute.
Jackie, can you please mute your microphone, and others? Please, always, when you join, I said, always mute your microphone, because we are getting interruptions and this is affecting us. Okay. Refusal to of the multinational corporation, I have explained that. Violation of the local values and norms. Yes, that different countries have different values, and we are saying that organizations, and when we were discussing the CSR, we said that I think basically we are looking at legitimacy theory. We said that business organizations should not do away with the local values or values of the communities where they are operating from. So it has been happening that in some instances, multinational corporations may operate in a manner that violates the values of the local communities. Someone talked about Asians, what in the chat? So exploitative Asians, for example, yes, they think some organizations, such people think that after in developing countries, these people, there's a high rate of unemployment. So they capitalize on that to exploit the natives. So this is wrong. Okay. Okay, let me see. All right. Then Let's continue with the discussion. Now, we want to come to something else, and this is another discussion, which is cultural environment. When we talk about cultural environment, I think you covered something to do with the culture when we're looking at ethical institutionalization, ethical issues, business, and something to do after when you finished the Kohlberg's theory of cognitive model development, ethical decision making. But briefly, I want to talk about this because I believe you discussed it before. But we are saying that when we talk about culture, cultural environment, how do you define culture? Culture is defined as the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes members of one group from another.
So, pardon.
Culture is defined as the collective programming of the mind, that distinguishes the members of one group from another. Now, with this, we mean that different people of different cultures behave differently.
I don't sound the definition.
I've always said that culture influences the way people behave and the way people act. You behave the way you behave because that's how you were brought up, because of your cultural values. Even when you grow, people who have self-dignity, self-respect, people who respect others, this has something to do with how they grew up and where they grew up from. So that's why you see that some people have said, well, we may call them more stereotypes. Sometimes it's true. When you hear some people say that people of this particular culture behaves, when you say that some people of a particular culture behave like this, and somehow it may be true. Because if you hear 5, 10 people say the same thing, there's no smoke without fire. So when we say that the culture is the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes individuals from another group, this is exactly what we mean. You behave the way you behave, which is different from another person's behavior because of the differences in culture and the cultural values.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Will I be wrong if I say maybe culture is refers to the norm of a given society?
Can we give chance to someone who has requested for permission to say something, and others, can you please mute? Yes, can you please go ahead? You are saying?
I was asking, is it wrong if I say maybe culture refers to the norms and values of a given society?
Yes, you are also right. That's also a right definition. But today, that one still relates to what we have said, because when you say a given society, that means that different societies will have different cultural values and norms. You get it? So you are also right. These norms and values are different from those of another culture. That's why you hear different languages. The values of the cultural values of those people will differ from people of another group or another culture. And that's why we are saying that cultural diversity results into differences in ethical behaviors. That's why I want to reiterate that we behave the way we behave because of our cultural values. And when we are discussing in the beginning, values, virtues with Mr. Chigundu, you must have talked about values. That if you have values, your values will values are principles that individuals cherish and they influence how they behave. So this means that your values have something to do with your culture. Of course, along the way, in the process of associating with other people, you tend to acquire, and those are what we call virtues. Virtues are acquired. According to Aristotle, virtues are acquired human behaviors or principles. When you associate with different people, you tend to acquire some behaviors. That's why they said that birds of the same feathers flock together. But what I want to explain here is that the varied interests and the tastes will also come or are also associated with differences in terms of values. So when we talk about cultural environment, we are looking at the fact that different people have different cultural values, which and actually even in different countries have different values which determine how they behave. And this is also extended in the business environments. Now we are saying that some of the issues that may arise when we talk about cultural environment, we may have varied or different interests and tastes. That's why you find that people who maybe the Banyankole, for them, they value this. Even in terms of foodstuffs, you'll find that for us here in Uganda, we like matoke. And for me, if I go to a restaurant and I ask, what have you prepared? What do you have? If you mention what you have and I don't hear matoke, then I feel that you have not prepared the food because I don't have a choice. Now, if I'm in Uganda and for me, I feel that matoke is my best dish, is my best food, then that I may have something to do with the culture. But when you find some other people, they will tell you that for me, kalo must be among the types you have prepared. Now, personally, when I go to a restaurant and you mention, I ask, what do you have? And you say that you don't have matoke, then I will not eat because when I eat matoke, there's a way I feel I get that satisfaction. And those are the tastes. Of course, some people will be there. So the kalo may be associated with one step of foods that are known. That when you go to Teso region, they like a cassava flour, they want millet, they want this. So varied interests and tastes. Lots of cultural values, identity and heritage. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to read about cultural relativism to expound on your understanding. Cultural Relativism by Hofstede. This is a task which I've given you. Please get time, either in groups or individually. Please find time and read about cultural relativism by Hofstede. Hofstede talks about the cultural topography. I don't know if you covered it last time. It talks about cultural topography, and you find things like certain avoidance. Please get time and read about that. Even when you Google, you'll find these materials about Hofstede's cultural relativism. It talks about the cultural topography. So please, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Let me go to something else. And some people say that when they visit you without ukalo, we feel that you have not prepared for me nice food. Yes, Baganda people love matoke. Yes, you are right. But they are what? You know, when you eat something and you get satisfaction, that's what you treasure. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. Business and the natural environment. Now, when you talk about the natural environment, we are concerned with when we talk about the natural environment, we are concerned with how human beings use the natural environment as source of their raw materials or resources that they use to sustain business or in production, to sustain business or to earn a living. Now, what I want to say is that the increase in knowledge, technological advancements, and actually the increase in population have resulted into encroaching on the natural environment for survival. The increase in knowledge, technological advancements, and population have resulted into encroaching on the natural environment for survival. When I was discussing corporate sustainability, I said that corporate sustainability draws from a number of notions, about 5, and one of them was sustainable development, where we said that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising meet theirs. Now, when we say that the increase in knowledge, population, and technological advancements have resulted into encroaching on the natural environment for survival, different people are encroaching on the natural environment in order to earn a living or in order to survive. When some people cut down the trees, they want to earn a living, to get timber, to get charcoal, to get firewood, and even for other purposes. Because it said that, yeah, of course, they make papers are made out of timber. This a certain type of tree, the soft boards. So people are earning a living out of using the resources from the natural environment. So dependence on the business firms on the environment may affect the environment in different ways. Now, the question is, how do businesses depend on the natural environment? Can I get some ideas, suggestions? The question is, how do businesses depend on the natural environment? Can I see the hands up and I use you and you respond? How do businesses depend on the natural environment? Yes.
They depend on the natural environment
Rebecca?
for raw materials.
They depend on the environment as source of their raw materials. Good. Thank you. How else do businesses depend on the natural environment? Rebecca? Rebecca, unmute.
Yeah, the businesses put up their farms on land, so they use land as their resource.
Good, good. Yes, that businesses also, they don't operate in a vacuum. They don't operate in air, but they operate from the environment. So the businesses depend on the natural environment as their source of location, because they need to locate farms, businesses, factories on land. Thank you, thank you. Yes, how else do businesses depend on the natural environment? Hilda, you have unmuted your microphone. Unmuted your microphone. I beg your pardon? Godwin, yes. Godwin M. What do you have to say? How do businesses depend on the natural environment?
Some businesses use natural resources as their raw materials.
Yes, we have said that. Yes, businesses use the natural resources which come from the natural environment as their raw materials. Yes, we have said that. Ronnie, Ronnie, yes.
Can we say businesses use the natural environment for conduction of research?
For what?
Conduction of research.
Conducting research.
Yeah, research. For example, the medical personnel that conduct research on various things like trees to get medicine.
Yes, yes. The herbalists, or we have called them medical personnel, the herbalists, of course, yes, they use the natural environment as a source of to get medicine and even to conduct research. Yes, you are right, but even in the agriculture sector, I think they also conduct research. They test the different soils when they want to come up with the improved species. Yes, you are right. Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie Akena. Rachel N. Unmute. Rachel N. Unmute, please.
Waste assimilation, like nature breaks down the waste that are produced by the companies.
I beg your pardon?
Like the waste assimilation, nature breaks down the waste that are produced by the company.
Good, thank you. Yes. Yes, I agree with you. Jingo Neri, did I see? Yes, Jingo, the class representative. Yes, please unmute. Okay, yes, thank you. I hope people are noting down those points. Yes, I hope people are writing down all those points. Good, thank you. Gombe Duku Alex. Alex, please unmute.
Yes, sir. There's something I want to clarify on the natural resources. Actually, if people say it's natural resources, I think it kicks almost most of the points out of the blue. So it is better to break the it's better to break the natural resources. So I'm adding on like the environment also provide power.
Power,
in form of maybe biogas, fuel,
Yes, good. Thank you very much. Yes, businesses also depend on the natural environment as their source of energy. Thank you very much. Yes, you are right. Businesses also depend on the natural environment as their source of energy. Yes, Rachel, you have another point in addition to what you gave. Please unmute. Rachel, unmute. Or else you forgot to.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, can we proceed now?
Excuse me.
Yes. Can the other people please mute your microphones now? Someone who is asking, yes?
So what of dumping site?
Yes. Businesses also depend on the natural environment as source of their dumping sites because they need places where to dump the garbage and so on. Yes, you are right. Thank you very much. Those were brilliant ideas. So now, to proceed with our discussion, businesses afflict the environment with the toxic wastes. Actually, when someone says that the natural environment are used as dumping sites, you are right, and this is in line with this particular issue. That businesses afflict the environment with their toxic wastes. Now, we are looking at how businesses, in the process of depending on the environment, how they end up, or their operations end up affecting the environment. So we are saying that businesses afflict the environment with toxic wastes in form of, and they affect the environment in different ways, in form of air and water pollution, where the gases or the materials, the waste substances contaminate the water bodies. Secondly, that they also depend on the natural environment, and as a result of using the resources, they end up depleting them. Depletion of the natural resources. And we said that in sustainable development should focus on using the available resources to earn a living, to meet the needs of the present generation, but without compromising with the future generations to meet their needs. So businesses should avoid depleting resources. We are also saying that the oil spills from the petroleum industries are also actually, they also affect the natural environment negatively. What about the gases? When we talk about the gases, old vehicles, if an old vehicle is in front of you, the weight can release that smoke. It's even dangerous to our lives. These ones affect the natural environment. They affect our safety as members of the society. The burning of the fossil fuels, like the oil, the gases, and the coal products. This is also this one also affects the natural environment. The coal which produces excess carbon, which causes global warming and climate change. I've always been reiterating that what we are experiencing today, that most of the problems that we have in the society are as a result of the activities of business organizations. When we talk about the drought spell, the long drought spell we are experiencing today is as a result of global warming, climate change. But when you trace the cause of this, we are saying that this one is caused by the activities of business organizations in the process of encroaching on the natural environment. The fluorocarbon gases, which are used in making of domestic products like refrigerators, these also affect the Earth's ozone layers. So basically, we are looking at what businesses do in an attempt to use the resources or to depend on the environment and how they end up affecting the natural environment. All right. Therefore, having said all this, we are saying that there is a concern. There is a concern that businesses must operate while respecting and protecting the natural environment. The concern for business or for environmental affliction gives rise to what we call environmental ethics. And environmental ethics is concerned with the ethical relationship between people and the natural world. That how people should relate or depend on the natural environment, that businesses should relate with the natural environment as their source of materials for different purposes, as we have discussed them wisely, to ensure that they don't encroach on the environment or their activities do not negatively affect the natural environment. Environmental ethics is also concerned with the kind of decisions that businesses make about the environment. That's why I've always reiterated that the decisions or what we are experiencing or the problems that affect the society arise from certain decisions that were made by managers or a particular organization, but accidentally, incidentally, this may affect the society in different ways. And now we are looking at the concern for the business and how they should operate in a manner where they don't affect negatively the natural environment. Therefore, attempts to answer this, they are attempts to answer the following questions. So, the environmental ethics attempts to answer or to address the following questions, which include: one, how should human beings relate with their environments? And when we talk about human beings, we are basically referring to businesses, because businesses are not simply machines, they are not simply structures, but a business, we say that a business is a network of people who make and manage commitments. So when we talk about a business, we are concerned with the human beings, the employees and the managers who make decisions that may affect either positively or negatively the society. So here we are concerned with addressing such questions. We are saying that the environmental ethics is concerned or tries to address the following questions: how human beings should relate with their environments, how should we use the Earth's resources? We said, in an attempt to earn a living, we should use the Earth's resources to meet our needs, but without compromising the future generations to meet their needs. That's why we're saying that businesses should use or should depend on the natural environment to use the resources for which are required in their production, but without depleting them. How should we treat other species, both plants and animals? Are you aware that even, by the way, even animals have rights? There are some people who are concerned with protecting the rights of the animals. That's why they say that even when you are transporting animals from Kanungu, from Mukabale, from Mbarara to Kampala, there are some restrictions that you are not supposed to handle or to treat animals in such a way. Actually, some people who are concerned with the rights of the animals actually argue that you're not supposed to use a stick to hit that cow. You should simply chase it, right, slowly by slowly, shh, shh, shh. But getting a stick and beat it and hit it, this is against the rights. It's a violation of the rights of the animals. So how should we treat other species, both plants and animals? What are our environmental obligations for the future? For the future generations? What are our obligations of the future generations? So all these are trying to address those concerns that arise when businesses depend on the natural environment, and sometimes they tend to affect the natural environment. Right. So unless you have questions, I want to say that this brings us to the end of our lecture today.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.